I'm hoping we'll get one or two more people able to pop in if that's possible. Kind of have two things on the agenda as far as I'm concerned is one, we do have a report out for this group kind of scheduled for the Savannah meeting, and I want us to kind of think through kind of what and who wants to be involved with that. So let me flop over to the agenda here real quick. You guys seeing the PDF?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got rapid response and agility, artificial intelligence. My name is on there, but it's just a report out from this AI work group, the resources that we're trying to develop, what we feel like the needs are for our constituents, and then possible applications of AI for TRCs, next steps and deliverables. So I don't have to do all the talking for this, but I absolutely can if there is value in that, or if everybody else just determines they want to be shy. But I'm trying to think about the best way to kind of communicate what we've been up to and kind of the progress that we've made. My thinking is if we have a nice outline kind of settled of the document, we're not going to have the deliverable. I don't think that there's really any way for us to kind of get that out, but I think we can share our outline that we've been working on. We can share kind of some of the work that we did on identifying the audience in the group, and kind of identifying why we thought we'd focus on rural healthcare locations and the different topics that we covered. And then I've got some other things that we can kind of bring up for possible applications of AI for TRCs. I've been kicking around the idea of creating a custom AI chatbot for the TRCs, maybe trained on some of our toolkits and stuff. I don't know if that's really a prime time idea, but it could be kind of a cool way to demonstrate some of the technology, and see if we could do it. It would be something we have to kind of set up and program, and I have not kind of delved into that, but it's one of the things that I think T-Tech might be interested in doing, is to maybe build some of these and see if we couldn't get some of the white papers and toolkits from the TRCs pulled together to kind of help train the algorithm on some of the things. But that's just an idea. We'll probably need some.
I think that's a cool idea, actually.
Yeah.
Because we have a ton of stuff that it could be trained on. It would make it easier for people to access the information, and it would be a showcase of us using new generative AI. And, all in all, it's probably a pretty reasonable cost to do it.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we've looked into it. It is not super expensive to get kind of a basic AI that you can kind of train on some of your own data sets. If we were to train our own, that gets ridiculously expensive. But like if we just take it and say, hey, this is your body of work that you can kind of reference, it shouldn't be too much of a lift. But I can do some more looking into that prior to us meeting, and then potentially raise the idea. Okay. Other thoughts? So as it stands right now, what I'm thinking about doing is just building out some slides around these topics, just to help. I think better with slides. So I'll build out some slides around these topics, put in some bullet points, and then I might send it out to the group and just get some feedback, in case you guys have anything else that you want to add, or things that we're talking about that you don't think are quite. Just get some feedback from the group. So I'll work on that this week and send it out so you guys have some advance warning. That sound good? All right.
Yeah, that sounds good. And Jordan, I mean, I do feel like you ended up in the lion's share even after you asked us to help at the start of that. If it's helpful, I mean, I'm sure between the breakout group, the previous breakout groups that we're all having to plan, like Boyd and I could easily jot out some questions for that next steps and deliverables things, right? So prompt conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great if we've got some. I'll work on the slides, and then yeah, if we can add some feedback, or if we guys can help me kind of flesh some of that out, that's great. I think what I'm more interested in is getting the outline into a workable state and kind of figuring out what that's going to look like once we get it all put together. Um, it's not super shareable right now, but I think between now and when we all meet up, we can get it into something that shares pretty well. So I think that's the bigger thing for me. All right, got a thumbs up from Reed. Cool. Well, on that note, I'm just gonna switch us over and take a look at the document as we have it so far. I know I was working on this last night and today. I don't have as much done on this as I was kind of hoping for. I was kind of waylaid with some sickness last week, so just kind of getting kind of back up to speed. But I wanted to run through some of the things that I did, and I thought we could all talk about some of the things that we're working on and kind of talk about next steps. But again, just by way of overview, what we're thinking is, I'm thinking 2 pages is in length is probably not realistic. The more I work on this, the more of it's a kind of a short white paper rather than a 2-page handout flyer. But I don't think we can say everything that we probably should say within 2 pages. And I think I'd rather have it be a little bit longer and have a little bit more context than it be than try to keep to that really short page limit and then really have to cut out a lot of the useful information. Any feedback on that?
It makes sense to me.
Agree.
So I've been trying to work on some of the front section pieces of this. So I've been working on a definition of AI in healthcare. I put this in quotes because ChatGPT and I have been batting this one around quite a bit, refining it. So it's a little bit of mine and it's a little bit of ChatGPT's. But the definition that I was thinking we could work with is artificial intelligence in healthcare refers to the utilization of computer algorithms and models to simulate human intelligent processes such as learning, reasoning, and decision making with the aim of improving healthcare delivery, patient outcomes, and administrative efficiency. So as a working definition, do we think that that's something that we can kind of work with in the document? A little academic.
I like it. I think you should just take credit for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Do we, I mean, I like it too. Do we want to refer anything to the generative AI versus traditional algorithmic AI? Because that's sort of what's precipitating all of the interest.
Yeah, I keep that thought. I kind of hit some of that in some of the advancing technologies. Let's see if we scratch that itch, Boyd, and if we don't, then maybe we come back and revisit it.
Sounds good.
I laid out 3 things that 3 reasons why we kind of look at AI. Machines excel at repetitive tasks. Humans possess cognitive abilities like pattern recognition, decision making. AI is really the attempt to blend kind of the strengths of both. We want to kind of make machines think like humans with understanding and adaptation. That might be, I don't know if this part is really necessary if we kind of hit it in the section above, but I just included that, but we can easily cut this.
I think it is I agree with the determination of it, but part of me feels like remembering what audiences that might be using this, right? That establishing the basis, understanding is never a bad thing.
Okay. Well, let's keep it in for now, and we can kind of go from there. Is that what you're leaning toward, Reed?
Yeah, that's basically. I mean, like if we get to a point where we're like, man, there's really no need for this to hit a 5th page, then yeah, that's probably a good section to look at cutting. But otherwise, I feel like making sure everybody's starting from the same spot before they read the rest of this is useful. Is my 2 cents on it.
All right. Cool. So I have a little section in here, why now? Why it might now be a good time to look into artificial intelligence for healthcare application. Why does it matter to you and your organizations? There's a lot of hype around generative AI technologies, which is creating increased attention and investment in generative AI, which holds promise for generating creative outputs and solving complex problems. I talk about where we have maturation of AI technologies like machine vision and classification systems, which I think is kind of the bread and butter of what AI is actually going to do in healthcare in the next, the next couple of years. The production of large healthcare related data sets. So we have a proliferation of digital health records, medical imaging archives, and wearable sensor data, which results in a vast amount of health related data being generated and collected. And then accessibility of advanced processing and data storage solutions. So specifically, so these are kind of the drivers of the AI boom right now, as how I see it. In reading this back, I don't know if this hits. I don't think that this hits the different types of AI probably hard enough. Boyd, sorry.
That's all right.
I think in adding a section in here on the types of AI might be worthwhile.
I would agree. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and then I also have a clinical need section. So another driver is a clinical need. We have provider shortages, shortage of healthcare professionals, including nurses, physician nurses, and specialists, rurality and lack of access to care. And then the accessibility and value of patient and population data. So there's a growing recognition of the importance of patient data for improved healthcare and AI-driven analytics and insight. Types of artificial intelligence. Generally, I'll break it into these 3 categories. Most AI solutions generally fall into one or a combination of these. That we have general artificial intelligence, which includes chatbots, image and video creation. Machine learning, which includes machine vision and classification systems, and then expert systems, which are trained on specific sets of data. And then we'll provide some examples of these. I think that's what we need to do for all of them, is provide examples. Should that come before the why? So if we go into the definition, we talk about some things that machines do and humans do, and then AI is kind of doing it, but trying to bridge the gap. And then we can talk about types of artificial intelligence. And then we can talk about why these things are happening now. I think makes the most sense in terms of order. Okay. So in our conversation last time, we decided that we were going to try to look at breaking the different types of artificial intelligence into kind of three categories. The first being here and now, and I described this as AI technologies that are currently deployed and integrated into healthcare systems and workflows. Around the corner, which is emerging AI applications and technologies with potential to transform healthcare deliveries in the very near future or the near future. And then science fiction. So futuristic AI concepts and possibilities that may have significant implications for healthcare, but are not yet realized or feasible with current technology. So kind of explaining the structure for the different areas that we wanted to look at. And then in the patient focus section, looking at AI chatbots in the here and now. We've got a lot of examples of system checkers where you just kind of go in and fill out examples of the symptoms that you have, and then it can kind of drop you to a potential diagnosis or kind of recommend some different types of care. Appointment scheduling and reminders. There's a lot of these services that already exist out there and that can be kind of bolted onto a variety of electronic health records. And then there are tools to collect demographics and insurance information and make sure that these are part of the visit in the AI chatbots. In the around the corner, I put these custom on-demand patient education chatbots that could provide customized user-related education materials for specific medical conditions. This is just kind of an enhancement of like the existing chatbots, but they're going to require more specialized training. And I haven't seen a lot of really kind of full-featured ones that really provide a customized experience. A lot of this is almost more kind of just decision tree sorts of things that happen. Like kind of a generalized medical information resources. So like this would be, just a chat bot that you could kind of have a conversation with, and that would actually give you good general medical advice, answer your questions, and then direct you to more appropriate care. I'm a little bit on the fence about this one because we kind of talk about some chatbots that almost do this. It's almost the system checkers, but this would be like more like your WebMD, but like kind of a more full-featured WebMD. And I've not seen a lot of these that have a kind of a full-featured resource set yet. And then in the real-time medical language translation, so we talk about how work is being done in general translation services, but we need to do a lot more work in order to create reliable medical translation services in the needed patient languages. So, and then in the science fiction category, I put chatbot medical, I missed provider here. So the idea that you could have a medical provider that is just kind of able to prescribe, make recommendations, and do all that right from right through the chatbot. So that's kind of what I was thinking. I still need to do some work on medications and prescriptions. I have some reference materials for this, but I don't have this kind of fleshed out into the format that we want the here and now, around the corner, and then the science fiction. But questions on this? Does it feel like the structure works, or do we want to revisit that? Do we feel like we're communicating some useful high level information with kind of what we're looking at here?
I think it's working.
Okay. We'll pop down to some of the accessibility stuff. Reed, I know you were looking at some of this. You want to just talk us through what you got?
Yeah, well, so last time we met, I think I kind of reported back to you guys. I really wasn't finding much that was integrated into EHRs or other medical platforms. I think everybody kind of agreed that was at least their awareness of it, and so I focused the little bit of time I had in the last 2 weeks on it, on working on this blurb, which I still don't love the start of it, but I feel like the end of it is coming together all right. And then I was going to either tease in some of these bullets as you did above. I saw what you had done with around the corner sections above, and explain where we see them coming in, or try to find some examples of the DTC stuff for some of these bullets of specific utilization cases underneath the paragraph. Like that first part you're reading right now, bit too long. Like it goes, all the way down to yet. So that I know needs some work. But I feel like I do like, other than probably explaining what I mean by DTC, the way that it rounds out here, explaining that it is available if you're just trying to use it as an average plain Jane individual. When we're talking about medical integration, it has not sort of been seen ubiquitously. I think you're starting to see Epic and Cerner take some stuff on, but I don't know if anybody has other thoughts, and or if this is not what people thought this section might look like. Happy to revisit. I feel like I'm finally almost out of my to-dos for Savannah, so out
Yeah,
of the
could you?
list, so I
I'm
have
trying to read that.
this week to this. What'd you say, Boyd?
I'm sorry, I was trying to read it. If you could hold it there for
Sorry.
a second.
Yeah. I wonder, Reed, if we couldn't just kind of put this into that format. So, and what we could do is just kind of punt. So if we took that format, the here and now, around the corner, and kind of science fiction, just to kind of keep it similar. Like if we did the here and now, we could say, hey, there are a number of, direct to consumer AI tools that are designed to give patients access to healthcare, but we've not seen a fully integrated AI solution into EHRs at any kind of serious level. And then around the corner, we could talk about like there's some applications in real-time translation, closed captioning, customized patient records that have the ability to, give us some really helpful tools for, I don't know, small rural organizations. And then, I don't know, go ahead.
Why do we say that we don't think AI is integrated into EHRs? I mean, if you talk to.
Well, in regards to accessibility considerations, and so that's one of the reasons why I'm not sure that this fully right. Like if you were a provider and you had a patient that speaks Malagasy as their primary language, there's nothing in any EHR that I know of or have found that's going to make a real-time translation of your encounter possible. You would still be going through the same steps,
Okay, got it. So accessibility specifically like translation or something like that. But I mean, consumers don't really go into EHRs anyway. So why would you expect to see DTC accessibility things for consumers in an EHR.
I wonder if this is more of a, like a patient portal consideration, right? Like that's the gateway between the patient and the EHR generally.
Well, in my research, one of the use case for generative AI is translating EHR notes into patient summaries, so that patients can have kind of a everyday language accessible version of their encounter with the doctor. So
That's cool.
So I think I do in terms. I guess I'm like we're all talking the same stuff, but looking at it different ways, and it's probably important that we hash this out because I'll need to rewrite it so that we're looking at all this. Backtracking, Jordan, I do think what you were proposing, basically inverting this paragraph to fit the format that you have, makes sense. The patient portal considerations are its own accessibility bucket. But boy, to your point, when I say like integrated into EHRs, like therefore every provider is able to deploy these tools on their end, right? Like into the DTC stuff, like, you know, Microsoft's got real-time translation that it's not even for healthcare. It's just so you can interact with other individuals out in the world that they speak a different language, right? Like this stuff exists. But if you talk about it being healthcare oriented and healthcare driven, not yet. That I've seen anyways. And that's, I mean, if you have links, if you have resources that fit here, send them along. I'll read about them. We'll put them in. But I haven't really found a ton of, you know, things that are going to do explicitly Calvin mentioned, but again, healthcare driven, not the patient requesting it, not the patient going and taking some resource and, you know, putting it into a tool, but the provider and facility itself using it to become a part of their just workflow and operations.
Right. I was just kind of wondering, you know, around EHR or back office operations, those aren't things consumers are exposed to anyway.
Yeah,
So it
we have sections for those below. In the so we're breaking it out: patient facing, provider facing, administrative and support, and then diagnostic. Like those are the different aspects. So we wanted to kind of break it down into who's interacting with the AI, right? Like, or what's the job of the AI? If so, for this is specifically looking at AI that is designed to interact with patients. And so I think,
And so
including,
I guess then tying that
go ahead.
together, Boyd, my point with the DTC stuff is like kind of similar to if you go buy a title care, and again, I'm saying all this to verify. I think you guys are very smart in this. I'm reading in real time and digesting, right? I could be off track. But my thought is that like just like if you went and bought a title care from Best Buy, that data is probably not getting to your primary care provider. It's the same thing, right? You know what I mean? Like if you go use one of these other tools that exist in the direct-to-consumer space, it's probably not increasing your accessibility to healthcare currently.
So maybe we need to talk about what we're talking about when we say accessibility. So when I'm thinking about accessibility, I am thinking about these things: the real-time translation, you know, closed captioning for visits, you know, patient record summaries, you know, things that a patient can access and interact with, that make their like health record or make their visit like more personal and kind of customized for them, right? So the other way to look at this is accessibility in terms of, and maybe we're not capturing it here, but accessibility in terms of disabilities or you know, better levels of access for, you know, hearing impaired, things like that. That's something else that we could talk about. But I know there are tools that exist. I'm not sure anything kind of off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, that's fair though. To that point, yeah. I mean, I knew this section was going to need reworking, and it's probably part of Boyd's confusion too, right? Is like if you are a shop that's using a big EHR that's integrated the video platform, in theory, every provider does have access to at least closed captioning. Real-time translation,
Mhm.
probably not, unless they bought additional software, but at least closed captioning, right? So like there are some things that we can at least provide examples, concrete examples of how it's already happening. I do just feel like if you're talking about within the encounter, majority of them are not there yet in this space. And I guess that is, Jordan, because to your point, I tend to look at it from the other side, like the disability and the equity and equality piece. Boyd, you could have something to say.
I'm just thinking you are the more knowledgeable person about accessibility and those things, and that's a good way to think about it. I don't know to what extent those things are out there that can do real-time translations, and I mean I think I haven't done the research, right? But I think it's definitely worthwhile calling it out that maybe we haven't seen for, accessibility and translation and so forth. We haven't seen what could be the real potential. But I think that's separate from EHRs. So
No, but I do think the EHR, like, I really think the EHR is going to be the gateway for most of the AI enhancements we're going to see, because it's just what everybody has access to. All right, so I'm just teasing out some of the things that we've kind of mentioned as we've kind of been going on here. So, patient portal tools. So Calvin, this summary that you saw, that was something that was built into an EHR that a provider hits a button and it spits out a summary that they can print for the patient. Was that the kind of the idea?
Yeah.
Okay. That's probably more on the provider facing. I don't know.
right. I mean, that's an example of where, something like notes are really useful to the consumer. But mostly this stuff, it's, in the EHR, it's not really that consumer friendly to begin with, but yeah.
No, no. I
I
know
mean,
my patient.
it's not like, I mean, it's all the stuff that are really defined fields, like using the US CDI standards, which are the new standards. It's mostly, around labs and medications and things like that, which are not, to a certain extent, consumers want that, but then again, it's for provider to provider and for billing.
But holy cow, what I wouldn't give for like a plain language lab read. Like, I can go in and see my lab
Yeah.
results and I could see if they're out of norm, but I don't see, like, what does this mean? So, and then you click in and you go through and you end up in like some
That would be
patient
awesome.
education information. But like, if and even if it ran by the provider, like, and said, hey, this is what I want to share with this patient, is this cool? Like, but yeah, no, I agree. There's a lot of potential here, but like maybe it's in the more like things that might happen or things that would be cool. And maybe we can phrase it like that. But yeah, I'd love to see some stuff on. I think you've got a lot of things kind of packed in here, Reed. I think maybe if we kind of split it out, either like potentially in the like things that are potentially happening now, things that are around the corner, and things that are kind of science fiction. And I guess maybe you don't have to feel like something fits into that category if you're not finding something that's in that category, right? So if you're like, hey, I've done some digging and I don't see anything that's in the like, hey, this is really happening now in the patient portal, or these are really happening now for disability and equitable access. We can say that, like, look, there are a lot of potential things, but like there's nothing that we're seeing that's like ready to go out of the box, really useful in the moment.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the paragraph when I first wrote it was intended to had to be like an intro to the bulleted list, but then, like I said, once I saw your format, I knew decompress this paragraph a little bit and kind of use the bulleted list to within it. And so that's tackleable. I do like I use the other sections to look at how you guys are handling it, because I think it's an interesting debate that I think keep circling back to here around the integration of EHR and whatnot. I mean, like historically, that wouldn't have been my concern at all when I was looking at softwares that healthcare systems could use as a part of a TA or any other project. It just seems like they all seem to have this proliferation of app stores, if you will, and therefore, if it's not in there, it's not in there. But if there are other sections, that aren't necessarily tied to that consideration, then we can add some stuff that's like, these are some things that just exist in the wild, and you can talk to your healthcare provider if they want to utilize. But I'll tackle it.
Yeah, and again, I wouldn't shy away from like, look, I don't see anything that really does this. It's an itch that needs to be scratched, and I don't see anything that scratches it, but like it's definitely something that is of importance.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Have you looked at there's an AI for that.com and put in
No.
healthcare?
That's I should have assumed there was a website like that, right? Like there's one of those for everything, right? Like there's the didtheredsoxwin.com, right? Like there's everything. Actually, I should have assumed, but no, I didn't. I'll check it out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of AI stuff in there for healthcare. I mean, there's stuff for everything.
Here, I'm gonna pop this into the document. I was not aware of this either.
Boyd's just keeping secrets. We're in like third week of content development. He's like, "Did you guys use this, resource generator?"
Sorry about that, guys.
No, it's all good. Better late than never. That's actually really well timed, right? Because to Jordan's point, I was feeling like a little bit like, am I just using the wrong search terms? Like I've tried to turn this rock a couple of times, so that's a good a great next step.
I mean, I had not looked at this in a couple of months, and not surprisingly, right? There's even more of them than there were before.
There's a lot, and then so it's in that stage too where there's a lot, and a lot of them that are in there are probably defunct now too. Like
Yeah.
everything's getting gobbled up or going out of business, or all that, and then what's going to be left is kind of the ones that work, and then those are going to get bought by healthcare systems, and then that's how it's going to kind of
Right.
trickle down. So
There's no quality requirement or anything for stuff to be on that site. So,
right.
My dog could build something and could bark into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT would turn it into something.
All right. Cool.
I don't know why, and we have more content to cover, but remind me one time, sometime, whether it's the end of this call or next week, to tell you guys about the fish doorbell I stumbled across online. That's all I could think of when Boyd's talked about a dog barking in GPT. So leave that as a curiosity in your brain. Stay on focus. But
No,
I
Reed,
was flabbergasted.
No, you got 3 minutes. Give us the fish doorbell.
So I was just like goofing around on Reddit, and I stumbled across in Denmark, there's a canal system that there's a spot coming off a lake that's so shallow But if the fish have to sit there and wait for the canal to open, they will get eaten by birds. Birds will swoop by and grab them. And so there's a live stream of this door, and humans press the doorbell. And like, oh, there's a fish here and it needs to be let in.
So it doesn't get eaten.
Yeah. But this is a thing that exists. And I was like, this is amazing. Sarah's like, what are you watching? Why are you doing this? I'm like, I'm kind of fascinated. That's why. So
Nice.
it's, there's better visibility at times and whatnot, but then that
Is that the doorbell?
that's the doorbell, and you would open the open the gate.
Well, right, because it's almost midnight there, right? So it's like
Yeah.
11:43.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's-
it's not something you can watch all the time, but it is there. I have checked it out more than once now that I know about it.
All right, Reed. This brought fresh joy to my life. Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent.
It's the least I can do.
All right, Calvin, you're up. You kind of want to walk us through where you're at and kind of what your process is?
Well,
And
unfortunately, I kind of forgot the new format. So I've
It's all
got
good.
kind of some synopsis here. Generative AI can help with automate time-consuming EHR workflows. Generative AI can translate medical notes into everyday terms for patients to view. Automated note generation based on the provider to patient conversations. Haven't gotten into nursing notes or ambient listening yet. That's kind of where I've got.
And I think that some of the ambient stuff is kind of some of the stuff you're already hinting at, right? With based on provider to patient conversations. That's the idea that you got a mic in the room and it kind of records everything that happens and documents it.
Right.
Cool. Sylvia told me she had a bunch of things to add to the list. I need to reach out to her and either ask her to put that in here or to make it accessible to us so that we can kind of put this together. I will add it to my list. So I'll reach out to Sylvia. I'll also reach out to Brian. I'm going to be meeting with him in a couple weeks. He did a really great, like, hey, 10 diagnostic uses for AI in healthcare. I'm going to reach out to him and see if he can maybe sort this. I guess, okay, so I guess here's the question. Like, so if we need to change tack, I'm okay with that. But we need to know kind of if that's what we want to do. Do we like this idea of, we kind of raised the idea last time about like, hey, this is what's happening now. This is what's around the corner. This is what's science fiction. Do we still think that's useful, or would we rather just kind of lay out like in kind of bullet form or in a just kind of a straightforward form, like, hey, these are the things that are happening in this space, and just kind of do it narratively? Is that an easier lift?
Personally, I wouldn't say it's a different lift one way or the other. Like, I think it's a matter of like massaging
formatting.
the information we're finding, and I like the way that your sections kind of flowed as the sections that have formatted it that way. So like, I'm happy to commit to
Okay.
continue that. But Boyd, I think I talked over you.
Not at all, Reed. No, I agree. I don't know what's a heavier lift or not, but I like the way it's formatting. I think it flows well.
Okay. So I'll reach out to Brian and I'll reach out to Sylvia and just check in with them. Brian's write-up's actually really good. He goes over, I think it's a nice kind of depth of detail, talks about kind of what they do, how they do it. But I'll see if he can't format that into like what's now, what's around the corner, what's probably science fiction. So and then I'll reach out to Sylvia too and see what she has. Michael did a good job of kind of capturing a couple of the this is one thing that obviously won't probably follow that same format, the hazards of AI. But he hit some kind of the key points with some good resources, over reliance, unvalidated AI usage, making sure we keep people in the loop. It looks like Nikki added some things around AI consent. I think this is left over from kind of when we were looking at this from before. So kind of best practices around for organizations. Yeah, I think
I
most
can
of this
find
is
it.
Michael.
Just calling out so to myself for when I review the recording or whatever. There's a tip sheet in the accessibility section that's probably good for that organizational thing, right? It's like it's considerations for accessible tech deployment, and it does have a brief blurb on AI. I'm imagining you're gonna add more, so I'll move it down to this section.
Okay. The other thing is the NIST AI framework. We can I think we're going to have to create a big resource list based off of this, where we kind of add links to everything we have kind of on the other pages here. But the NIST AI framework is actually really good. It's kind of a useful tool if you're trying to tackle some of the governance things. It gives you kind of some of the kind of key factors, and they've got a nice infographic of like what you want out of an AI solution. Like it needs to be transparent, it needs to be accessible, it needs to be ethical, it needs to be kind of all those things. So we can include a list of that. Okay. So I think the things we have to do is I will work on if we could kind of address the sections that we have. I'll reach out to the folks that aren't here to see if they have anything else to add, or if they can kind of update or add comments on the sections that we had. I'd like to do a couple more polished passes on this. I'd love to have this at least in a nice outline format so that we can show the folks in Savannah kind of what we've been putting together. So if we could work on our sections in the next day or so here, that'd be really good. And then I'll reach out to the rest of the group and ask that they add those. If we could have that by, if we can have any other kind of updates by Thursday, I think would probably be really helpful. And then I can try to pull it together Thursday, Friday, and then potentially when I'm traveling, and then use it kind of when we talk to everybody on, I think we're talking on Tuesday, but I'm not sure.
When does everybody arrive on Monday? Does it make sense to put brains together briefly on Monday, or maybe just do that asynchronously because we're all going to be there at different times?
I'm traveling Monday. I think I leave late Sunday and get there Monday. Let's see.
Don't quote me on this because I've had to go on flights the last couple of weeks, but I think I land around 4. And then, Boyd, you guys did what? It's like 30-40 minutes from the airport to the hotel.
I think so. I've actually never flown into Savannah.
Are you flying into, or are you driving?
No, I'm driving.
How long is
Is
that?
it,
It's about 4 or 5 hours. Which, because there aren't many direct flights, it would have been more time to fly and more expensive, so.
Yeah, no, I know that battle. I got lucky. I was actually pretty surprised to see there was a direct one. There is not when I'm going to the Poconos following week. So it's actually gonna take me almost 1.5 times longer to fly from Maine to Pennsylvania than it is from Maine to Georgia.
Right. No, so I went on Turo and I'm renting a Tesla. So it's, you guys ever use Turo.com?
I have, yeah,
Yeah.
for a minivan in Sitka.
Right. Oh, yeah, we've had pretty good luck. I've used it for minivans and other things, and so it ends up being cheaper than flying.
I guess my point was though is like if I think I can definitely rewrite my content by Thursday, end of Thursday. But if there's something that would be useful to talk out on Monday before the section or whatever, or even Tuesday morning or whatever, Jordan, yeah, I'm happy to fit it in.
yeah, we're not gonna have a whole lot of time on Tuesday morning. I'm actually just seeing, I was just looking at my flights. I think I got a mistake in there. I'm gonna have to fix that. Yeah, let's just work on getting, I don't think that I'll have time to kind of meet up before we put our heads together, or before the session, I don't think. So,
It's a valiant effort nonetheless, and if we can, I'll get something by Thursday, then it'll be in a good spot. And it's also in a good spot to hear from people. I guess in my opinion, you know what I mean. I feel like if we got a little bit further through it, and people want us to add sections or delete sections that have been kind of a bit of work for folks, that'd be a bummer. So
yeah, I mean, what we have is kind of what we have, so we just need to figure out how we're gonna pull it all together. So, but that's not to say that we can't take any of these and flesh them out in more depth. And I think that's really what we have to do, is this is the overview, this is the primer. We're gonna put in some general information, and then we're gonna look at this for next time and figure out like, okay, what do we need to go in on more depth in and do some additional research on and provide some better resources. So, but we want to give something that's high level. All right. Anything else before we kind of wrap up today? I am noticing there's a problem with my flight, so I actually need to go fix this. So, it's been one of those weeks, guys.
Go get that fixed.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go do that because I have to. All right.